Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your host, Adam Emmert.
It's unbelievable. I can't wait to never see Big Guns Hockey League ever again in my life.
And Brandon Schultz.
How is that unsportsmanlike even? To me, that seems overly sportsmanlike. That's extra sportsmanlike.
Go Hawks!
On a quest to own the West, yippee-ki-yay, we make the ground shake. On game day, 12 man, yeah, he's feeling it is vital. The Seahawks.
Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, good buddy and Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood today, Brandon. It's a beautiful day. You feeling good?
I'm feeling
like it's
great.
A beautiful day.
I know it's still been a couple days now, but allowing it to set in. I just want to thank the Patriots for allowing us to come and play in their sandbox for a couple hours. Was it just me, Adam, or were they playing that game on the surface of Tatooine?
It looked a little like that. I think sandbox is fairly accurate, but I don't think it was a play date because that was a man's game all the way around. That was real football finally came back. It seemed like we had this season of dreadful football. Man, what a game.
Even though it looked like every player was Pigpen from Charlie Brown, that was a man's game out there.
Between the execution, between the hits, between the big plays, I mean, it was unbelievable. And I think I even texted you at one point during the game, win or lose, this has been an amazing game. Yeah,
no doubt. It was an amazing game. The Seahawks come out with a win, which makes it even more amazing. 31-24. We got a lot to run down this show. I want to take a look at Russell Wilson versus Tom Brady. There was a stat, Adam, that really separated these two quarterbacks, and we'll get into Russell's performance. And Adam, Kam Chancellor was back and showed up in a big way. And we speculated on trading salary on defense versus salary on offense, and I think we might have to revisit that.
Yeah, that definitely needs to be revisited, no doubt.
Also, I want to talk about what this game meant for Coach Pete Carroll. And Adam, we have an interview today. Jen Briney, Patriots fan and host of Congressional Dish, is joining us to talk about the game. And yes, just a little bit of politics, just a little bit. But she has a great show. It definitely plays it right down the middle. And what's really cool, one of the reasons we both enjoy it, Brandon, is its truthiness. To steal a Stephen Colbert line, it definitely is one of the more accurate political podcasts that you can come across. No doubt about it. Well, she does this thing that some journalists are unfamiliar with, and that's backing up what she's saying with actual facts. And she links to everything that she's speaking to in the show. And it's kind of a weird concept, but it's why she does so well at what she does.
Absolutely. It's a must listen. You guys should definitely check it out.
Well, let's get into the game, and what do you say we kick it off with an email from Garrett in Espanola up there in Canada?
Yeah.
What a great game for us. Let me break it down. Wilson? Check. Running game out of Procise? Check. O-line pass protection and run blocking? Check. Doug Baldwin catching everything? Check. Defense? Well, duh, check. How about Kam Chancellor? He's not bad, eh? How about Steven Hauschka drilling all 4 field goals? Record-breaking performance. Check. After beating, quote-unquote, the best team in football, I like our chances against any other team, especially now that we're in the second half of the season. Was a long wait, but I'm glad I held on to my Seahawks guys in my fantasy leagues. Go Hawks.
You bet, Garrett. Now, not being a fantasy guy, I don't know exactly what that means for you, man, but that sounds good. Don't give up on your guys. That's why you shouldn't play fantasy. It makes you want to give up on your guys. It's a bad idea. But, man, he hit it on the head. I mean, there were so many different things that went right for the Seahawks in this game and things that we haven't seen go right for quite some time. And let's start out with, to me, Brandon, a group that Garrett pointed out that I think is probably the most maligned group of players in all of sports, and that is our offensive line. I think that's a great place to start because they really did look like a real offensive line.
Well, Justin Britt especially, he had a whale of a game. There was one point in that game where I saw the athleticism of Justin Britt, and it made me question. I'm like, who's number 68? Because it was on a play where the offensive line all went to the right, and Justin Britt, he came out of his center position and went all the way to the left tackle position to block the backside defender. And I looked at that play and I had to think, I'm like, who is number 68? And it's like, oh yeah, that's Justin Britt. And that play really stood out to me.
Well, and it should have, Brandon, because that was definitely one that stood out to me as well, because that's one of the ways they're protecting George Fant.
Yeah.
Because they did that a couple times during the game. And then you also saw, speaking to Buttermilk Pancake's athleticism, like they pulled both him and I believe Glowinski a couple times, and they really got down the field quickly and got to the second level and helped spring guys. And I just felt like they really played on a strength. They targeted really well, making sure that they picked up the correct assignments, and they even opened up a little bit of wiggle room in the running game for CJ Prosise. But more importantly, they gave Russell Wilson a half a beat to throw the football. And the thing is when you give Russell Wilson a half a beat to throw the football, he's the best freaking quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even close. 25 of 37, 348, 3 tugs, a rating of 124.6. That boy can play.
Oh, no doubt. He had a heck of a game, and once again, one of the top quarterbacks just in the NFL this last week, really looking like that MVP caliber type player. We're starting to get into this time of the season where an MVP candidate can really separate himself from the rest of the pack. And Russell Wilson getting healthy at just the right time. And we haven't even seen him at 100% yet, because some of those spin moves that he makes, yes, he's back to making his patented spin move as quarterback to get out of trouble, but it's still not all the way there yet.
Definitely not all the way there yet. And you can tell that by the fact that I think he's still under 100 yards rushing total for the season. I think he's under 75. Hell, he might be under 50.
I think he's under 50.
Yeah. So, but the point being is that, yes, he is back in the sense that he can move around the pocket more effectively than most quarterbacks again. And that's nice to see. But no, not 100%. But even not at 100%, he torched the Patriots defense. And now you'll hear a Patriot fan, Bill Simmons, talk about how basically the only reason that Russell Wilson was able to do whatever he wanted was the fact that the Patriots front seven is terrible.
Yeah, well, thanks for getting rid of Jamie Collins.
Well, number one. And number two, that's the same defensive front that has that team tied, or at going into this game, tied with the best record in football. Like, so they must not be that atrocious if somehow they've been beating pretty much everybody except for the Bills without Tom Brady.
Right.
So, I mean, fine. You can poo-poo the performance by Russell Wilson in the offensive line as much as you want, but it was dominant. It was in Foxborough. It was on the road. And again, we would supposedly had no chance going into that game if you asked the national media.
Well, I think that's what really fuels this team, right? Is when people don't give them a chance. And it was kind of interesting listening to Pete Carroll going into this game, because he answered some of the questions about them being an underdog. And he seemed to be surprised in some way that they were considered an underdog going into this particular game. And I tend to believe him, because he doesn't think that way. He doesn't think of his team being an underdog. That's why every week you hear him talk about every week being a championship opportunity. And it gets to be cliche, but when you hear all the other players talking about it, Doug Baldwin especially, and Russell Wilson, and that's the mentality that they get themselves into.
Oh, sure. I don't know that there's one NFL team in this league that thinks they're an underdog any week, though. You know what I mean? Like, these are guys, even the worst team. Let's take the Browns, and they're not the worst team. Let's take the 49ers, okay? Because they're the worst team. Let's take the 49ers. Every single dude on that roster was the best player in his state at some point in his life.
Right.
Like, every single one.
And these probably was the single factor that helped propel that team to a winning record in high school and college. Exactly.
Like, single-handedly won state championships and stuff. Like, every one of these guys are the best of the best of the best. They are supremely confident in themselves as athletes. I mean, if you're going to make it to any professional level of sport, you're going to believe in yourself pretty highly. So, yeah, as far as Pete saying, sure, I didn't think we were an underdog. Of course he didn't. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised by that. But what I do like is that when they hear the noise and they hear that people perceive them as an underdog, it does put that giant chip on their shoulder because this was the most focused that they've played all year. And that even goes all the way down to penalties. I mean, there are very few penalties in this game, very few mental errors, especially offensive line wise and things of that nature. It's just, this team was sharp and focused and ready to play. And the game plan was outstanding. Give Darrell Bevell credit. All the people that want to can Darrell Bevell every other week, look at this performance. You saw some very creative stuff with the way they used the offensive linemen to help protect Russell Wilson in a different way. They decided to finally go ahead these last 2 weeks and take the reins off. There's the change that Pete Carroll had been talking about for just the week before last?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
About to take the change. And here it is. They take the reins off and they say, look, okay, fine. This is Russell Wilson's team. This is what we're doing. We're throwing the hell out of the ball. And because they can. All of the weapons that they have it's an embarrassment of riches. You might as well use them. And now that Russell is healthy enough to take advantage of it all, that's what you're seeing. And Darrell Bevell did a great job of getting pretty much everybody involved. I mean, think about it. Lockett had some big catches. P. Rich had some big catches. Graham had 4 catches. Now, none of them seemed big, but he was drawing coverage off a lot of guys. One of his biggest factors, Jimmy Graham, was that he actually pulled coverage away from Doug Baldwin on his 3rd touchdown in the game. It was a huge factor.
Russell drops back into the shotgun. 3 receivers to his right. Here comes the blitz. Russell has time. Lays it up over the top. Baldwin. Touchdown! Seahawks! Doug Baldwin, a beautiful pass right over the top, back edge of the end zone from 15 yards out. The Seahawks extend their lead 31-24.
3 touchdowns by Doug Baldwin on the day. And Adam, going back to what you said about this team just being focused, you could see it and Doug Baldwin and the way, the crispness with which he played, and as well as Russell Wilson. And it really stood out to me. There was one stat, Adam, that really stood out to me looking at Tom Brady versus Russell Wilson in this last game. And that was how they played under pressure. Tom Brady, he under pressure for 10 plays. On those 10 plays, he was 4 of 8. So 50% completion percentage. Only 7.4 yards per attempt. That was his lowest. That was lower than his average. 1 interception, 2 sacks, and a 34.9 quarterback rating. Russell Wilson, on the other hand, under pressure for 18 plays, went 10 of 14. That's 71%. That was higher than when he had no pressure. He was in the mid 60s.
Wow.
And 10.2 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times, but it gave him a quarterback rating of 143.7. Yeah, just to look at his under pressure completion percentage, 71.4, like I said, no pressure, 65.2.
That's a really stark difference right there. Now, I remember telling y'all last week that we definitely had a chance in this game because the Patriots do give up pressure on Tom Brady. They're 28th in the league at giving up sacks. And once you saw them getting pressure, it really does rattle Tom Brady. And you can get to him. You can get him to make mistakes. And basically, the 1 interception was probably Brady's worst mistake. I mean, that was an ugly ball. I don't know what the heck happened there. But, I guess I do know what happened there. Ataba Rubin was chasing him like he was dinner. Like he was chasing him all over the field, man. And Brady tried to move around and scurry around and couldn't get his feet set right. And boom, interception.
Ends up throwing into double coverage and Deshaun Shedd just waiting there. And that was Tom Brady's first interception on the season.
That was the Patriots' first interception on the season.
Wow.
Not even Jimmy Garoppolo, not even Brissett. I mean, that's nuts.
That's pretty wild. And on the other hand, Russell Wilson gets another 4th quarter comeback stat, Adam. He's now at 17 on his career. And let's just run down the list of guys who he's tied with. Listen to this name of this list of names at quarterback. Mark Brunell, 17 4th quarter comebacks in his, 16 seasons in the NFL. He's
a pretty good player.
He's a pretty good player. Matt Hasselbeck. I think everybody remembers him, right?
Who?
A good 16 seasons in the NFL. Ron Jaworski of the Eagles.
He was most kids listen to this podcast know Jaws is the guy who talks funny on ESPN.
Yeah.
And usually has no idea how to judge a quarterback. But he was actually a pretty good player in his day.
He was, yeah. He played, I think, 16 seasons in the NFL from 74 to 89. So Donovan McNabb had 17 comebacks. Steve McNair, another great quarterback.
Man.
This is a name maybe before a lot of folks' time. Brian Sipe of the Cleveland Browns.
Brian Sipe actually won an MVP.
He played for a long time for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Alex Smith, a guy who is currently playing now.
Alex Smith has 17?
He has 17 fourth quarter comebacks.
That is stunning.
That's in 12 seasons. Can you believe he's been in the league that long? 12 seasons?
Yeah. I can. It feels, because every time I have to watch Alex Smith play a game, I feel like I aged 7 years.
And the other guy tied with Russell Wilson at 17, Doug Williams.
Holy cow. And they all had long ass careers, man.
Yeah. Doug Williams might be the shortest career out of those. I think he was 12 years. Yeah.
And in some ways he had 2 careers. I mean, when he started out with the Bucks and then ended up with the Skins and yeah. So it's quite remarkable to think that Russell is piling those sort of numbers up this quickly. And I think another thing that really speaks to Russell Wilson and his greatness early on in his career, if you take and you look at all the quarterbacks in NFL history and with a minimum of 500 attempts, Russell Wilson has the highest QB rating on the road than anybody else ever. Ever. Not Joe Montana.
Right.
Not Tom Brady. Not Aaron Rodgers. Not Johnny Unitas. Russell Carrington Wilson. Yeah, but he's just
good, not great. He's good, not great.
But I mean, he was great that night.
right.
But everybody just needs to go to bed.
Oh, Pete Prisco.
I wish he would have said more so we could have gone to Prisco's world.
I know.
But basically, he tweeted out that Russell looked great that night.
And all the
be quiet cult.
Russell Wilson cult should go to bed.
And everybody should go to bed. And I say, we've got some Kool-Aid for you here, Pete. I mean, now you're saying he could play one good game, that he's great for a game. Maybe say he's great for a season. Maybe say he's been great for his career. Come take a little drinky poo off the Kool-Aid. We got some for you. It's got some nano bubbles in it.
Right.
You're gonna feel real good.
And this would be the place to come and do it.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to point out in terms of fourth quarter comebacks, just looking at his contemporaries, right? The guys that either came out in his draft class or the class before, Cam Newton at 12, Andrew Luck at 13, and Andy Dalton with 14. So he's got at least 3 on all those guys.
That's amazing.
I know.
And think about all the times Andrew Luck is down and has to come back.
Oh, yeah, because the defense always puts him in a position to have to come back in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Russell Wilson's clutch, man.
I know. And we keep trying to tell people that.
I just don't know what else to say. I mean,
the knock used to be that because he had this great defense, he never had to score more than 24 points to get a win. You looked at a lot of those fourth quarter comebacks, and none of them were games where the Seahawks scored in the 30s. Well, here you have it. Here you have the Patriots game, 31 points up on the board. Yeah, the defense allows 24. Russell had to do something in this game to get him going.
Well, not only that, but I mean, okay, fine. So you bring up the game this week and you say, they threw up 31 and see he can do it now, but he could do it from his rookie year on. I very much remember being in Atlanta and being down by a crap ton of points.
Yeah, 20 points at halftime.
And Russell Wilson putting the team on his back and scoring a crap load of points to put them in the lead with just a few seconds left. And that was just by his arm. He took over the game.
He's been rookie.
He's been doing it since year one. The only reason that everybody still was on that bandwagon for a while is he didn't have to do it week in and week out. But he could every single time he's been asked.
Every single time. Let's do another email here, Adam. Here's one from Russ in Denver. It says, "Hi, fellas. That was the game that we were waiting for this team to play and to do it against the Patriots. So sweet. Thankfully, we can savor this win for what it is instead of catfish officiating, shanked kicks, or Pete's questionable decision to go for 2 while up 7. I really like how Procise was used in this game. I know it won't last, but it gives me hope that going forward, whenever Rawls gets back, the backs can continue to take the heat off Wilson so he can continue to be great. Knock on wood, we are getting healthy, and that bodes well for the rest of the season. Go Hawks."
Go Hawks, Russ. Let's talk about the running back situation a little bit here, Brandon, including Mr. Procise. His performance really was amazing in this game. I mean, making his first start, and I understand the rushing yards aren't huge, 66 yards, but effective.
Yeah, 66 yards. It's just under 4 yards per carry with his 17 attempts. But it's the rushing yards combined with being the leading receiver, 7 receptions, 87 yards. He puts up over 150 yards from scrimmage.
Which is huge. And the thing is, too, it's the different ways he did it, even as a receiver. Like some of them were little flare passes. There was also that the long bomb down the sidelines that Russell hit him on. That was like 30-odd some yards, a hole shot between the safety and the corner in a cover 2, and gets rocked and still holds onto the ball.
Oh, that was a beauty.
That was a beauty. The one he took up the left sidelines, and as the corner came down and bared down on him, he channeled a little bit of inner beast mode and laid the thump on him instead of going out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that had everybody fired up. I mean, you heard Doug Baldwin talk about it and Russell Wilson talk about it after the game and how that was a big moment for the team, much like beast mode used to do those sort of things. I mean, on a 25% level
right.
of beastliness, you know what I mean? But still, it's that kind of idea. Now, do I think CJ Procise is the answer to the running game for the Seattle Seahawks? No. He's going to be an awesome third down back.
Yeah.
He just needs to work on his pass protection a little bit. He had some struggles there. He did fine on other places as well, but that's where he needs to improve the most. But he is a professional. He is a worker, and I think he'll be able to really be a phenomenal player in this offense going forward.
Well, and I think that's a big reason why that on Tuesday we saw the Seahawks go ahead and waive Christine Michael, and they signed Troy Pope to the 53-man roster.
Pope's back. He made it all the way back to the active roster?
Made it to the active roster for the first time.
Wow. What a journey for Troy Pope.
Yeah.
After getting released, ends up with the Jets, gets released again, gets on the practice squad, and now he's on the active roster where he rightfully belonged coming out of training camp.
Well, if we were to look at Christine Michael's place in Seahawks history, is he the greatest preseason running back that the Seahawks have ever had?
I think that's very true. And I think that gives your Christine Michael rookie card some extra added value.
Christine Michael autographed rookie card, Adam.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I don't know what. Maybe we have to give that away to a winner this week.
We might have to. This is like a piece of show history now, because I feel like we've had this autographed rookie card of Christine Michael, and we've talked about it since I don't know if it was the first year of the show, but definitely the second year,
which is hilarious. But I don't know. We'll decide what to do with that. But yeah, so don't let the door hit you. See, Mike. I think I remember saying that once before. but bye.
I don't think it's going to be one of those rotating doors this time.
No, but look, I mean, I say that rather flippantly, but
I know
he actually performed, okay. I mean, he helped steady the ship while we waited for Rawls to come back. I mean, he wasn't a head case in the locker room or anything like that, but he doesn't fit our style of offense is really what it is.
I do wish him well. I hope he finds a team where he can really shine.
Yeah, I hope he finds
or at least be okay, like Robert Turbin, how he's gone to the Colts and been a good role player.
Contributor.
Yeah,
been a contributor. I hope he finds a team that knows how to exercise the turf monster, like knows how to get that out of the stadiums, because the turf monster is Christine Michael's biggest enemy.
Most guys aren't into playing on the beach, so I'll give him a little bit of a pass in this game.
Like Terry Allen, do you remember that running back way back in the day? Like tore up his entire knee playing beach football. Almost ruined his career.
I was thinking the dude from the Patriots. Was it Robert? Robert Edwards for the Patriots. Tore up his knee. I believe he made the all rookie team. It was in Hawaii for the Pro Bowl, and that's where he ended up getting. It was career-ending injury for him.
Yeah, at the Pro Bowl playing on the beach.
Yeah,
but I mean, best of luck to Christine Michael on his venture forward. I'm glad that I don't have to have a dude on a team with that bears the same name as a ex-girlfriend that was a brutal breakup. So I don't have to relive that.
You're finally over that.
Yeah. I don't have to hear it like on a daily basis. I don't have to say it, which is great. So it's better for my deal because we all know that this is all about how it affects me.
Right.
That's what's important.
Well, speaking of things that affected you in this last game, and Russ brought it up in his email, going for 2 while they were up 7 at the end of the game. I think a lot of us were kind of scratching our heads as to why exactly you do that.
I literally stood up out of my chair and said, no, call timeout. What are we doing? No. It was a terrible idea. Now, I understand where Pete's head was at, but his head was there because he was trying to out Belichick. He was trying to get way too cute. And it's like, look, haven't you learned your lesson about getting cute against the Patriots? Kick the catfish extra point, go up 8. And I know what he's saying is, well, if you make the extra point or the 2-point conversion, then you're up 9 and that's 2 scores. And that makes your winning percentage goes way up. Well, let me clue you in on something else. Kicking the extra point and extending it to 8 so they have to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, that also increases your chances of winning pretty dramatically. So let's take the more surefire play. And basically, if they did end up scoring, worst possible case scenario is that you go to overtime. You ensure that that's your bottom, your floor.
Well, and this is why I look at it as kind of a low risk, high reward type situation. I scratched my head initially, but I can understand why Coach Carroll did it because the low risk part of it is that you're up by 7. And so if the Patriots come down and score a touchdown, they're not going to go for 2. They're going to kick an extra point and send it into overtime.
Oh, you think so? You know that for sure?
Probably.
You know Tom Brady Bill Belichick isn't going to try to win it with Tom Brady on a 2-point conversion play? They're pretty good at that. They've got Gronk, Edelman, bunch of weapons, and Tom Brady, maybe the greatest to ever do it.
You don't know that, but you have a pretty good sense that that's what they're going to do because they could take their chance with,
let me tell you something. Let's just play the game of theory out for just 1 second.
Sure.
In this scenario, let's say we missed a 2-point conversion just like we did and are just up 7.
Like we were.
Tom Brady. Yeah, just like we were. Tom Brady marches it down the field just like they did. And instead they score. Okay. As a Seahawks fan in that moment, are you hoping that the Patriots go for 2 or kick the extra point? What are you hoping for?
Well, I would be hoping for the extra point because
exactly
what I would be thinking in that moment is that Belichick, with the way his defense has played all game, isn't going to risk the game on the coin toss because he knows that the Seahawks could drive right down and score a touchdown real quick if they get the overtime coin flip.
Just like they did at the end of the half. Belichick would be going for 2. And as a Seahawks fan, if they've trotted out there to go for 2, you'd be like, catfish! That's how you know.
Yeah.
If it's a good or bad decision. So I hated it. I hated it a lot. And the thing is both these coaches try to get super cute when they play each other. I don't quite understand it. They're in each other's heads a little bit.
Well, they are in each other's heads. And that brings us to the defense, Adam. And that brings us to Kam Chancellor because the way we can talk about all the plays that you made during the game, but I want to play.
Well, we only have one night to record this podcast.
We do. We can't. Maybe we need multiple days, Adam.
I think we're going to multiple games for this week. I think we're going to have to do Eagles later in the week.
I think we will too. But okay. I wanted to play this clip of Kam Chancellor talking about the play that they finished practice with this week.
It was a battle-hog game. You know, that's a great team. It was a battle-hog game, and in practice, you know, we actually ended the same way, same exact play, same side of the field, and it was against Marcus Lucas. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of irony in that, and, you know, it just felt good. I don't know if it's intentional, but I think it was, you know, from the coaches. You know, coaches kind of want to see their looks, and they want us to get our looks. So, you know, I think it kind of was. He did the same exact route, and we both failed and hit the ground just like that. But I actually got my hand on the ball on that one. But he didn't push me, so, you know, it was just a little different. But Grunk's a great competitor, man. And, I mean, with us two on the field, why not end it like that? You know what I'm saying? You know, give both of us a chance. Give him a chance and, you know, let me go out there and cover him.
The coaches ran the same exact play at the end of practice that the Patriots ran at the end of the game.
It's crazy.
They're in each other's heads.
It's hard to that's a great example of it. You can't make this stuff up. And if you tell me you're going to split Gronk out wide and I got one guy to defend him, you know exactly who I'm choosing.
Right.
It's Kam Chancellor every time for life.
Although they did it Cliff Averill earlier, but Gronk was lined up on the inside for that touchdown throw.
Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of a tricky thing. But point being is that the best part about that is that I got to text Jared right after that play and say Kam Chancellor can cover Gronk forever, period. End of discussion. And which was great because that was man up, stand up play right there, right? Those were two grown men going at it. It was a great no call by the referees. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you're a Seahawks homer. Of course you think it's a great call. No, I think that's pretty well universally thought of around the league as being a really great call because they both were giving each other the business.
Yeah, well, and Kam played it really well too, and that was the way that they practiced it. It was interesting that you listening to Gronk after the game talk about that play and how he said Kam was playing him a little farther off than guys normally do in that situation. And when you play a guy tight, that allows Gronk to do a little bit more pushing with the elbows. And so he had to kind of extend his arms a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And doing that got him out of position to be able to actually catch the football. And so it was not only great by Kam just to keep that spacing distance that he did, but also the fact that Kam kind of went backward to fall on his back when he knew that it was going to kind of go over Gronk's head. So it was just a beautifully executed play by Kam Chancellor.
It really was. I mean, among many, the forced fumble with Edelman, the near forced fumble with Gronkowski earlier in the game when Earl Thomas came in like a Scud missile and blew him up, like that was pretty amazing. Kam Chancellor was all over the field. You saw him directing traffic. You saw the defense play with an aggression that we saw earlier in the year when Kam was in there. And later on when Kelsey McRae wasn't in there, we didn't see that same aggression. This is something we said we needed to revisit the Kam topic, and I think this is a great time to do it because I think we all saw with our own eyes the difference that Kam Chancellor brings to this team. And I'm going to take that difference every year that Cam's able to play until the wheels just fall off. I'm done. Kam is on this team forever now. No, I'm not even joking. I know it's one game and some people will say it's knee-jerk and all that, but he is the heartbeat of this team. He is the heartbeat of this team. It's toughness, it's resolve, the underdog mentality, the professionalism, he puts fear in the opponent. He is the difference maker on that defense. And not only that, his communication being off the charts the way that it is and the way that he leads, we can't lose him. I would lose, and people are going to kill me for this, I'd lose Bennett before I lost Kam Chancellor.
Well, that was the crazy thing to me is that we won this game without Michael Bennett and not having the pass rush. Really, it hasn't been as strong with Bennett out, and it's clear.
Yeah.
But Kam Chancellor made a difference in this game, and we've seen him do it before. He has single-handedly won the Seahawks games, the game against Minnesota in the playoffs last year, getting the fumble up from Adrian Peterson. That won that game where he knocked it out of the back of the end zone with the KJ Wright assist against Detroit last year, won him the game. And in this game,
Super Bowl 48, when he knocked Demaryius Thomas 5 yards back and changed the entire tone of that game.
Right. And then in this game, Blunt going airborne on the goal line, he grabs his feet and makes it so Blunt can't get into the end zone. He kept Blunt out of the end zone and allowed the Seahawks to win the game.
Saved the game. I mean, it was the Kam Chancellor show. That was a man's game. I couldn't have been more impressed. We can't live without him. We can't. Oh, there's just nobody like him.
No.
And if you doubt that, watch his NFL Top 100 and from this last summer.
Yeah.
And basically, I think it was a kid from the Bengals and he was playing special teams. He goes, so I look out there and I start counting. I got the fourth guy in and I count 1, 2, 3. Shit. Because it was Kam.
Uh-huh.
That's how he makes people feel.
Yeah, and he had a whale of a game. He was the top rated safety by Pro Football Focus standards. And I mean, by any human eyeball standards this last week. He played incredible.
Well, I think Earl Thomas might have a bone to pick with that because he had a whale of a game, too. I mean, he led the team in tackles and he had that monster hit on Gronk.
Yeah, and Gronk, one report said that he punctured Gronk's lung by making that hit. I don't know if that's exactly the case, but I wouldn't doubt it. Jeez, He hit him hard. And you're right. It made a difference in the game because you saw Gronk go over the middle and he was a little more tentative. The throw looked a little bit behind him, but I think he looked a little more tentative than the normal Gronk.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the ball was deflected on the one, I think.
Oh, that's right. I think it was Ruben that got a little piece of it.
But if that had been on time and on the money, Cam was right there. He pulled up. A half a step before he was going to blow Gronk up again. And even heard Collinsworth say that was a great play by Cam to avoid a 15-yard penalty right there. But if it would have been caught, that would have been the end of Gronk's day right there. And again, that's the type of thing that he can do. And I'm in, man. Like I'm in. He's a spiritual leader on this team. He is one of our spirit animals. We have to have him. He's important to the Hawkra.
Cam does balance out the Seahawks Hawkra, especially on defense. Now, that's not to say that the Patriots still had a pretty good day. I mean, Martellus Bennett still had 7 catches for 102 yards. Julian Edelman almost had 100 yards, 7 catches, 99 yards. And then Gronk, even though he had 3 catches, he led the team in average, almost 19 yards per catch. So, I mean, and those are guys that Tom Brady is going to go off. I mean, he had 300 plus yards. So, but the fact that they kept him to no touchdowns, Blunt did pretty well there on the goal line, though.
Yeah, I mean, that one run of his was pretty impressive.
Where he just kept moving his legs, bouncing it outside, and finally got in.
Good for him. Hats off. Kind of like as the Patriots drove late in the game and that big bomb to Gronkowski down the sidelines. I mean, that was great coverage. I mean, there's just no defending that. You just tip your hat.
Yeah, and they end up on the 2-yard line. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
You kind of wonder why the Patriots just don't run the ball from the 1-yard line, but whatever.
As somebody, I think you would agree, Brandon, that's been traumatized by situations in the past similar to that. You hand the ball to the dude named Blunt. You take the Blunt instrument and you ram it into the end zone. And I get the idea that Brady converts on 90% of those sneaks. Like, I get that. But the first one was from like 2 yards out.
Yeah.
That was going to be tough. And then the second one, he fumbled the snap. So, look, I'm surprised that Blunt only got one chance right there. I'm glad he didn't. Again, that's one of those, as a Hawk fan, you ask yourself, okay, this is the situation. Blunt pounds it 3 times, or Tom Brady tries to sneak it twice, and there's a fade throw to Gronkowski. I know which I'm choosing.
I don't know, though, because as a Patriots fan, I'd say, yeah, get it to our best guy. Just like we say in the red zone, where's Jimmy Graham? Like, why aren't we throwing it to Jimmy Graham in the red zone? And we know why.
Doug Baldwin's wide open.
Well, Doug Baldwin is wide open. And Belichick is all about taking away a team's best guy, their best option. And that's why you didn't see Jimmy Graham do a whole lot in this game. But Doug Baldwin, that's our next best guy. and maybe even, 1A, 1B, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Graham had a big effect on this game. If you say he didn't have a big game, he may not have big numbers, but he had a big game. Right. Jimmy Graham had a great game.
You might be upset if you're a Jimmy Graham fantasy owner.
Who gives a crap about fantasy? It's not reality.
The Seahawks got the win, Adam. That's why you don't give a crap. That's what I'm saying.
In reality, man. And in reality. But I just lost my entire train of thought, and I don't know where to go from there. Reality.
All I hear is girls like chuckling and giggling in the background. So,
well, it won't be picked up on the mic, so you're fine.
Okay, you're not hearing it.
Oh, no. So, but the reality of the situation, Brandon, is that the Seahawks came in and played lights out football pretty much the entire game, and what a great game too. 7 lead changes.
Yeah.
I mean, the drama of it. And did you ever think every time the Patriots went up that we weren't going to have a chance to go right back up?
No.
I felt like the second we had the ball, I was going to be seeing another score.
No, that was the fun part about it, too. Russell Wilson, you knew that if it came down to him having the ball last, that he was going to be able to make something happen as long as he had a little bit of time. And you saw Coach Carroll take another timeout toward the end of the game with the, just in case the Patriots happen to get it in on, first or second down. Sure. And he would have had a little bit of time. It would have been interesting, or it would have gone to overtime. We don't know.
I think the biggest thing that you could say as a knock on the Seahawks in this game is red zone efficiency. 3 for 7.
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, if you would have told me that's what they would have ended up doing, I'd have said that might be a loss. But, thanks to Money Hauschka for nailing all 4 of his field goals, but they're going to need to improve there. That's definitely something that's a little bit of a bummer. They ended up going backwards a couple times. I mean, so it wasn't a perfect game.
Well, let's talk about the one where they really went backwards, right? The one call that really had a chance to really impact the game, where Procise looked like he had crossed the goal line.
That was a touchdown.
It was a touchdown, and it upsets me so much going back and rewatching it and seeing the Patriots' first touchdown, where LeGarrette Blount drives into the pile. The refs,
catfish.
You can't tell anything, and the refs they make no call until they come in and see Blount on the ground with the ball across the goal line. You couldn't tell whether or not that he scooted past, of underneath the pile,
like Clay Matthews in that commercial where he just kind of slides there for like 5 yards magically. Yeah.
And they end up giving Blount the touchdown. They give him the benefit of the doubt, but they don't give Procise the benefit of the doubt.
Well, it's not even that. There's not even much doubt. Look at the freaking replay.
Yeah. Well,
Procise is over the line.
The replay.
Then when you switched it back to the other angle from like basically behind the line of scrimmage, because they have the ability to time the replays up.
Right.
You could see that his body was still in the air. Once he reached over, his whole body kind of collapsed down like about a half a foot. He was still in the air when he reached over. Like it's clear.
Yeah, I don't think they allow the officials to do enough mental reasoning in those situations. Like,
I don't know,
how could he have not crossed the plane is what I see when I watch those videos. How could he have not done it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. But that's the thing, right? This is one of the things that's really maddening to me is that you hear this all the time. Oh, they always stick to the call that's on the field. And that always happens when it goes against the Seahawks. And then on the random times that they do go against the call on the field, like you felt like, that it should
fumble.
Exactly. Then that goes against the freaking Seahawks too.
Right.
It's so maddening. And I don't think it's a conspiracy or anything. It's just how it's worked out. And it's just frustrating.
No, but go back to the red zone efficiency and what that allowed to happen, Adam. Hauschka's record-breaking performance, 161 field goals now by Steve Money Hauschka, breaks the franchise record, broke Norm Johnson's record of 159 field goals. Norm Johnson's a guy, Adam, and we've talked to him on the show. He's a guy that who's been talked about as a guy that should be in the Ring of Honor. And now Hauschka has surpassed his production, his field goal production. It really puts into the perspective of the longevity and a guy, and just what a guy like Money Hauschka's meant to the Seahawks.
So I'm going to ask this question, but I think only football nerds would be interested in the answer. And I'm guessing if you listen to this podcast, you're a football nerd. Is Steve Hauschka the best kicker in Seattle franchise history?
I think you have to say yes.
I kind of do too. He's had some big kicks.
Yeah.
And he has the most.
Right.
Yeah.
You kind of got to put him there.
Still had an extra point blocked in this game, though.
Yeah. Well,
that could have ended up being big. Man, they knocked Freeze flat on his butt, man.
Yeah. The other thing.
People are starting to figure that one out.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not.
Well, hopefully. There's no hopefully about it. How many extra points have we missed?
Hopefully there's an answer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's called Call Clint Gresham.
Yeah.
In case of emergency, break glass, call Clint Gresham.
Well, they might need to save that money because Steve Hauschka also a free agent at the end of this year, Adam.
Hauschka is?
This is his last year of his contract.
I thought he re-upped 2 years ago.
I think it was 3 years ago.
Holy smokes, time flies.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. See what happens.
Well, before we get to our chat with Jen Briney of Congressional Dish, why don't we check in with Dave Bloomquist and see what he has to say about this game?
Hey guys, how you doing? I just got to say I've put my tinfoil cap away for a little while. Still think a little sneakiness was going on in their behalf, but you know what? We beat it. You know who else got beat? Stupid BA. He had his easiest game of the year. Then he went home, put his fat ass in his recliner, and expected to pull within one game of the Seahawks. But guess what? Didn't happen. Procise, great. Chancellor, great. Wilson, great. Baldwin, great. Oh, man, what a fantastic game. I kind of wish I did live back in Boston right now. And this is the first time in quite some time that I am not cringing when somebody starts a conversation by, hey, did you see that last Seahawks and Patriots game? All I got to say is go Hawks.
Go Hawks, Dave. I like Dave's excitement, man. I think that's how we all felt after this game. Just super fired up because, like you said, it kind of helped wash the stink of the Super Bowl off just a little bit. I know it's not equivocable.
No.
Like, I get all that, and no, it's not a revenge game and all that, but it does feel nice. And it's pretty cool, too, to think about the idea that these guys have these two franchises, every time they've played in these iterations of these teams, have been nail biters.
Yeah.
Like, all the way down, even back to 2012. I mean, Russell Wilson throwing a bomb to Sidney Rice late in the game to go up and beating Tom Brady in that game. So, I mean, I think these are the two best franchises in football right now. And you can tell by the way they respect one another. I mean, there's a healthy amount of respect between these two franchises.
Yeah, the Seahawks go to 6-2-1 on the season. And as Dave mentioned, the Cardinals now at 4-4-1, an even 500. Seahawks have a pretty solid 2-game lead on the Cardinals. Still one game to play against them. But Cardinals not looking like a team going in the I mean, they got the win, but that was pretty.
By the hair of their chinny chin chin against the Niners.
I know. And they only win by a field goal.
At the end, like a last second one.
Right. Yeah. I think we were all wondering. Well, I believe I tweeted out or posted on Facebook, that we've seen Canzero missed a kick like that before.
Oh, yeah. I see. So can I just say one thing that was super frustrating about this weekend? This is probably the best weekend of football.
And you missed almost all of it.
I missed almost the entirety of it. I even missed the first quarter and a half of the Seahawks game.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
That Cowboys-Steelers game. Yeah, what are you going to do? Your best buddy only gets married every, once.
Jared only gets married once in his life, So, you gotta man up, especially when they ask you to do the marrying.
Yeah.
You better show up.
This is a thing that Adam does now, is marry people.
No, it is not a thing I do. This is one and done. I am retired.
I think you said you were retired from taking Santa photos too.
Catfish!
I know. And I just ordered a bunch of stuff for that today. God help me. In a course of 3 days, I photographed part of a wedding and I signed the contract to do Santa Claus photos in the mall in Kalispell. Two things that if you would have asked me a month ago if I would ever do again, I would look at you, punch you in the face, and definitely tell you,
catfish!
No. And here I am.
And there you are. Yeah.
There's no getting out of it. I have to do it. There was no other way.
Well, I think with that, I think we should get to our interview with Jen Briney. And one of the things that's interesting about our chat with her, she refers to Republicans and Democrats as teams, Adam.
Yes.
And with that perspective of being a fan of one NFL team, one of 32 NFL teams, imagine if there's only two NFL teams, kind of similar to Republicans and Democrats. You only get two teams. And by the way, those teams are the Raiders and the Cowboys. Those are the two that you get to pick from.
It's like Sophie's Choice. I don't want either of these. You know what I do? I would get a bottle of whiskey and climb to top of a cold mountain and just get drunk and fall asleep and never wake up. If that were my only two options left in the world.
Well, and those are your only two teams, but who of those teams is running for president? And let's say the Cowboys nominate Greg Hardy and the Raiders nominate Michael Crabtree. I mean, we're just getting even worse there.
Oh God, that would be. Because if you try my vote with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, this is probably the result you're going to get. I don't know. I don't know what.
And you're wondering to yourself, why can't Amari Cooper run? I like that dude, but no, he just couldn't beat out Crabtree in the primaries.
No. Could have been like, see, you should have picked a more dubious Raider. Like,
I was Alden Smith, I suppose.
Oh, there you go. Alden Smith or Greg Hardy. There's your choice. That's basically what just transpired. So, hooray, America.
And with that in mind, let's get into our chat with Jen Briney.
Gronk goes to the far side. He's got Chancellor on him. Brady. He's going to throw the ball up for Gronkowski, who pushes off, and it's incomplete in the end zone. He pushed off, and the ball sails over his head in the end zone. With 11 seconds left on 4th down, the Seahawks are going to take over on the 1-yard line. With 1 timeout left, the Seahawks can take a couple of knees. The fans are booing. Holy smoke! The Seahawks are going to win this.
This week, we welcome on Jen Briney. She's the host of Congressional Dish, an independent podcast that exposes the corporate influence on bills passed by Congress. She's been nominated for the Podcast Awards 3 straight years, as well as an Academy of Podcasters nomination this year in the news and politics category, up against shows like No Agenda and Common Sense with Dan Carlin and Serial. If you aren't listening to Congressional Dish, you don't care about America. Jen.
And you're doing it wrong. Yeah, you're doing it wrong.
That's true. No, that's not true.
I think it's kind of true.
You can listen to my podcast. I would appreciate it.
So, Jen, you are a Patriots fan, and you had enough courage to come on the show the day after a loss. And not only are you a Patriots fan, but your husband, Joe, is a Seahawks fan. So how were things in the Briney household last night?
He is. Well, I mean, it didn't completely even out from the Super Bowl because I'm still talking catfish about that and will until the end of time. But he got some of his manhood back. So I think we're doing good. Like there was no screaming or things thrown this time, unlike the Super Bowl. This was okay. I mean, I'm obviously pissed, but I work from home and he got to leave the house. And so, yeah, there's some relative calm.
Yeah, I would have thought that maybe that might have been close to Divorceville after Super Bowl 49. I mean, I don't know that that's something that I could come back from. Like if I had to look at my wife and she's a Patriots fan and she would talk catfish the entire time, I'd have major struggles with that because I don't think I could even talk about that game for a solid 3 weeks after it was done.
That pretty much describes what went on in this house. Like I went over when it happened and I tried to give my Seahawks fan friends, like I tried to bring over a tray of shots and be like, here's my alcoholic, olive branch for you guys. And one of them like threw it on the ground and my husband just like marched away, like super mad. So yeah, it was an ugly scene. That's for sure. And what I also did is I bought a Tom Brady jersey this year. And of course I had the emblem for Super Bowl 49 like sewn onto it. So he wasn't a fan of that either. So,
that is some solid troll game. Yeah.
Well, the good thing, Jen, is last night we got to see the tables turn and see what would happen if the Patriots were on the 1 or 2 yard line and pass and what they would do when they had 4 straight downs with the game on the line. And we also saw that they're going to pass to win. And it didn't work out for them either.
No, it didn't. It was kind of a high throw and didn't come down with it. And I actually think, I'm not big on like being bitter. And I actually think it was a good no call. I know that they were like really hoping for the pass interference, but like, no, it seemed fair and it is what it is. I wasn't happy about it, but at the same time, it was such a good game, like it had gone any longer. We would have had more lead changes. I mean, it was a remarkably close game and it was just really fun to watch, it was nice compared to the Seahawks crap fest that you guys treated us to. What was that, like a week ago where there was like no scoring at all? It was brutal.
The other Sunday, was it a Sunday night game where it ended up 6-6? Yeah.
I think so. You guys have had an extraordinary amount of night games this season.
Well, when you have a good team.
Because we're not the Patriots, Jen. Like we don't we're not on like every channel all the time with your cover boy Tom striking poses like he does in his Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football graphic. Yeah, I just he's something.
He looked like straight up villain in his Sunday Night Football picture.
I'm not gonna lie, I laughed pretty hard when because Russell looks all serious because he can never show personality. And then there's Tom Brady like striking some Zoolander pose. That was freaking hilarious.
Tom Brady is so much more fun to watch than Russell Wilson. So you guys need to up your personality game. over there on the Seahawks.
That's never going to happen. He's a robot. He's a robot. He doesn't have any.
Although your coach, your gum chomping coach, he's fun to watch. I always think about the person on the other end of Pete Carroll's microphone, and you just have to listen to him like on that gum. So I love watching him. We've kind of made that into a drinking game too. It's just like Pete chewing gum, like that's a drink. So
you guys must be hammered at the end of the game.
Well, that's what was so annoying is that the game was on a Sunday night. So it's like we couldn't really play like we normally do if it wasn't a school night. So, but yeah, for Super Bowl and those type of games, yes, we end up quite hammered.
So now, do you also drink every time Bill Belichick like actually just defers a question, like just totally dismisses it? You know, like, hey, was this Trump letter for you? Seattle. He had like Seattle Tourette's, you know.
He did. I love that guy. Well, I can tell you, we haven't done this in a while, but in the beginning of the game, if Bill Belichick was wearing his cutoff hoodie sleeves, then that was like chug half your beer. So, I mean, there's all kinds of like Belichick quirks that you can drink to.
See, I can see how it's easy to love Tom Brady. I mean, like the guy's super, super good looking and one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. But Belichick, he doesn't seem to come across as the most likable guy. I mean, how do you put your feelings behind your coach when he's that curmudgeonly?
The 4 Super Bowl rings definitely helps. Like, I don't give a
catfish.
And the other thing is, too, that we have a rotating group of people on the team. I mean, we've consistently had Belichick and Tom Brady, but we've turned so many no-named, like, wide receivers and running backs into star players. And the common denominator there is Bill Belichick. I mean, he'll take anybody. And just the way he runs the team, it works. So he has so much respect in Boston that we don't care if he's weird. You just love the guy that wins. It's that easy. You have to admit the man wins.
It's true. No, and we've seen that a lot. And really, you know, for the longest time, and that's part of the reason why I think Patriots fans get a lot of sports hate, right? Because they are so good. And Seahawks fans, for the longest time, we haven't had to worry about being disliked. Our team went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and I feel like people at that time thought, oh, you know, it's cute. The Seahawks have never been in a Super Bowl. Here they are against the Steelers. Oh, good luck to them. And then we were the underdog against the Broncos in a historic offense that they had. But since then, I feel like there's this growing dislike out there for Seahawks fans among other NFL fans. And for Patriots, you've been in that category with teams and fans having a strong sports hate against them. So how do you deal with that? I feel like I'm asking for some advice on the subject, Jen.
Well, I mean, it's kind of tough being a Boston fan just because, like, we earn the reputation of being
catfish
because we're all a bunch of
catfish.
Like, it's just like if you go to Boston, the people there are salty. And so when you talk about obnoxious Patriots fans and Red Sox fans and, you know, Bruins fans, we are obnoxious. So we just own it. And then we laugh when anyone gets mad about it, you know? So I think the Seahawks fans kind of need to embrace some of that, except the people in the Northwest are so annoyingly nice, you know? So it's really like, I think it's going to be harder for you guys to just brush off the insults because I don't know, that whole section of the country just doesn't give it the way that the people, I think, in the New England, New York area, even Philly, like it's just an obnoxious bunch of people that live too close together over there. So I think it's easier to take it. It's easier to give it. But yeah, you have to laugh it off. You also have to stop pretending that you're any louder than anybody else because
that's not pretending. We got facts, Jen. It's facts, logic, and reason that back this up. It's called decibels. They can measure it with a meter, and it's the loudest anywhere because we're awesome.
Yes, it's also called architecture. That's how the stadium was built. Your people do not have
your stadium
louder.
better. Build your stadium.
Hey, Jen, you know, this is one of the things that bothers me more than anything. We had a stadium with an entire roof on it, and then we built another stadium, and we took the whole middle part of the roof off, and it was still loud. So I just don't get the reasoning there.
Yeah, every dome should beat us then.
It's why people are annoyed with the Seahawks fans. I can tell you that's a part of it. It's a part of it because every single time you guys play, it's like, these are the loudest people in the league. And it's like, no, they're not. They have a loud stadium. They're no different.
Well, Pete Carroll would like to disagree with you, Jen, because after the game, during his press conference, he basically called out Patriots fans as being spoiled and not cheering when their team went ahead because, you know, they're too used to it. Like he basically was like, yeah, they went ahead on the Gostowski field goal and it was like a golf clap, you know, so that because, you know, it was like a nice effort. They were excited. So maybe yell louder.
Well, I mean, you get kind of bored of winning.
Am I doing? All I'm asking, Jen, is am I doing better as not being apologetic and nice, like, and just kind of laughing it off and being a little more combative? It was like, am I getting out of my Northwest shell? Like, I'm trying on your advice. Is really what I'm trying here.
Yes, you have to be a bigger jerk. Like, if people are going to hate you anyway, embrace it, have fun with it, and be mean. So
I like it. I feel like we're getting somewhere.
This is going to be a struggle for Brandon.
I was jumping in there with you. I was trying. All right, Jen. Well, for those of you who've never heard of Congressional Dish, tell us about your show.
Well, for the last 4 years, I've been trying to educate myself really about what goes on in Congress. And so I started for 2 years reading every bill that passed the House of Representatives and just kind of telling people what I found. And then I spent the last 2 years kind of learning how to do this. But basically, Congressional Dish is telling you what's going on in Congress from the perspective of someone who is not from either of the two parties. I don't play the whole team game, at least when it comes to politics. You know, you can tell I have a lot of fun with the team thing when it comes to actual sports, but politics shouldn't be about red versus blue. I mean, this stuff actually matters. And so I just tell people as if you're my best friend. I kind of tell you what's going on in Congress. And I do read bills, and I make sure that everything that I tell you is fact checked and sourced in my show notes. And my goal here is to just get people to know what is going on in Congress. And so I can't really tell you what the format is because I'm going to be changing it again here to deal with this coming nightmare of a Trump presidency with a Republican Congress. But yeah, my goal is to just tell people what's going on in Congress in a fun, digestible way, so that hopefully someday we'll take control of our own branch and have a better country.
Well, Adam and I have talked about this before, and maybe I don't know if we've mentioned it on air, but Adam and I feel like we're part of the radical middle. And I don't know if that's like an official category in politics yet, but I feel like it should be.
Oh, it absolutely is. And if you look at the numbers, they're fascinating because I think the story of this election, once we get out of this, emotional period we're in, when you look at the numbers, Trump didn't even get as many votes as Romney did. So it wasn't like there was a surge of Trump voters, but there were a lot of people that just refused to vote for Hillary, myself included. It's like if you're going to give someone an actual Republican or a Republican pretending to be a Democrat, they're going to take the real thing every time. And so there's a lot of us out there that are just not voting in either of these two parties. And so you have about 25% of us that are Republicans, about 25% that are true Democrats. And then there's about 50% of us that don't fit in either of those boxes. And I think as soon as we figure that out, on a mass scale and realize that the vast majority of us are not in either of these two clubs, we have a real good chance of turning things around. But right now we have two parties that are, they're selfish. They have rigged this system in their own favor. And most of us are not participating anymore. So it's a fascinating thing that just happened, but it was in no way a mandate for one party. It was just kind of so many of us sitting back and being like, neither of you represent me, and we are definitely not alone. We have the majority in that, no one represents me category.
So, Jen, I tend to agree with you on the idea that this is not a mandate, because I don't know if you remember that Clay Matthews Foot Locker commercial where he just explodes into like a whole shelf of shoes and it all just, shatters everywhere. And he's like, sometimes you just got to get in there and blow it up.
Yeah.
And I think the people that voted, and especially the Trump voter, I think was like, look, I don't care about what he says. I don't care if he even knows what he's doing. I don't care about any of that. I just want to get in there and blow it up. Like, I just want it all to change. And I felt like a lot of people are saying, it's because, people were feminists they were anti-woman, or they're anti this or they're anti that. I don't think that was it. I think it was more the case that Hillary represented the status quo. And everybody was just like, I just can't have that anymore, even if the other choice is abhorrent.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing about the Trump voters, though, that I can't seem to get this out of my head, which is that they've been very consistent in the Republican Party. I've been kind of paying attention to how many people actually are Republicans ever since the George W. Bush administration. And it hasn't gone up. It stayed the same. And with Republicans in particular, and actually this is true with Democrats too, it's the team thing. It didn't matter who the Republican person was. These people vote Republican. And there's a very big I'm a Republican because my daddy was a Republican. My daddy's daddy was a Republican. And it's this team thing that happens. And I've been to 40 out of the 50 states. And, there are people that support that party that don't know what the party actually does. They listen to the rhetoric because like Trump running as someone who's going to be a champion of workers, please, like that's not real. But they're not.
He doesn't even pay his workers.
Yeah. No, exactly. But it's not about the details. It's that he was the Republican nominee. I vote Republican. I always vote Republican. And the numbers back that up. Every year, it's about the same amount of people that are voting that way. But the rest of us are looking for somewhere to go. And for a while, it looked like maybe the Democratic Party could represent us. And then when they put up Hillary Clinton, it's like, oh, no. If I wanted a Republican, I'd be a Republican. And because she represents war, and she took $500 million almost from, her donors, but well over half of them were large donors. She took $200 million from the financial industry. She said Henry Kissinger was one of her advisors. I mean, this is just not someone that those of us that are looking for an alternative could go to. So people just stayed home, and we ended up with Trump. It's a fascinating thing that happened. But I think we just have to remember that there was no surge for him, and that's and it also, there's a lot of women that voted for Trump, too. Are they all misogynists, too? Like, it's not all about gender. There's actual policies involved here. And so I think we're also pretending that the Trump voter is like not as smart as the rest of us, which I don't know, dismissing half of the country like that, I think is a dangerous thing to do.
Well, you said something really funny, Jen, in your latest show. You suggested that maybe with a Trump presidency, that traditional media would start doing its job. And the reason why that's so funny to me is because you have a job because traditional media isn't doing its job. And somehow you think media is going to change.
No, I hope. Like, that whole episode is like, these are I needed to have a list of things that maybe would go well here, because the other part of that episode was me crying, just being like, I don't know how to deal with this. Because I do think that there's a lot of ugliness coming our way legislatively in the next 2 years, because we really didn't change Congress. So I know what they've been trying to legislate, and now there's no Obama veto pen. So I'm kind of terrified of that whole Republicans don't do what they say they're going to do thing. They really do work on behalf of big business, and they're going to privatize a lot of things, and possibly Social Security. And it's going to be a very scary lawmaking time. And one of the things that I would love is for journalists with bigger audiences than mine, which is just about, everyone. I would hope that they would take these stories that I'm going to be telling and share them with a broader audience, So I'm hoping to just lead by example. But I mean, I'm a podcast host. There's only so much I can do. Yeah, I get the irony of what I'm hoping for, because if there was, real journalism going on, I would probably be out of a job. But I'm also not a journalist. So that's the other part. Like, people are describing me as one because I fact check, but
because
really
you do real journalism.
Yeah.
Well, and that's frustrating to me, because yes, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to, one of the themes that I've seen in the last few days is there's been so much fact-free discussion. So I'm just trying to put something out there where I might not be right, because I don't know everything, but you can at least see where I got it from. Like, I make sure that all my sources are in my show notes, and I just feel like that's what everyone should do. So I think that's why people are calling me like a real journalist. But in reality, I'm a podcaster. I'm just dishing about what I'm finding on, in Congress, in these bills and in these hearings. And so I would just hope that the people that do get the millions of dollars would start, behaving the same way, and not just throwing out predictions and false stories. And I also, in the Obama years, we just saw a lot of people who really liked the guy. And so they allowed a massive expansion of power in the executive branch. And now that's being handed to Trump. And so at some point, there's got to be a reckoning here. And so I just hope that there's going to be more of an adversarial relationship between the press and the executive branch than we've seen in the last 8 years, because it's really just been buddy-buddy to the point that it's nauseating.
Yeah, I hear you there, Jen. Now, look, last question is going to be a two-parter. Basically, you said, well, I'm just a podcaster. But what I find interesting about that is podcasting is a very personal medium. Like, for example, the other day, my buddy Jared texted me. Brandon knows him well, too. We do another show with him. And the text was, Jen Briney doesn't drink caffeine. And so people know like things about you that you wouldn't ordinarily, because of the format. And so you say you're just a podcaster, but I'm sure you've had some experience where you kind of feel like you've had a personal impact on people's lives, or the experience itself has been pretty personal. And how in the world do you not drink caffeine? That's the two things.
Well, I'll address the caffeine first, because there's actually a lot of people that have asked me this question. My dad was a Coca-Cola executive when I was a kid. And so I was hooked on caffeine before anybody else. I was drinking, by the time I got to high school, I was drinking 4 to 5 Diet Cokes a day. I would have one for breakfast on the way to school, recess lunch, after school, and then like sometimes I'd have one right before bed, and I could still sleep. So it was a nasty, nasty problem that I had. And then when I went to college, I noticed that what I was doing was the same as the coffee drinkers. And so I decided to stop, and it took me probably like 6 months of really nasty headaches, but I got off of it, and I never want to be, drug addicted like that again. That's how I feel about caffeine. It's a drug. And so every once in a while, like I will have some when I really need it, but it doesn't take me as much as it takes other people. So I just don't want to have that addiction back. That's all that is. And then as for touching other people's lives, it's one of like the greatest things about being a podcaster, but it's also really confusing for me to deal with as a human, where I've met people for the first time who know so much about me, or think they know so much about me, because there's also overestimations where people will be like, I know you. And I'm like, no, you know my show, but like we've never met, so I'm struggling a little bit with this new reality that I'm dealing with, where strangers to me, I'm not strangers to them. And, but at the same time, it's brought so many great people into my life, and I've met so many awesome people that are inspired by the show and who inspire me. And so it's a great thing, but it's just a very weird social dynamic that I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with. So
I think Brendan and I have had a little bit of experience like that too, but it is a lot of fun. It's interesting, and it's a totally different dynamic. I never expected it either.
Yeah, well, and sometimes I wish that I was podcasting about something a little less serious, because when people like this, you also have to remember that for the last week, there's been a lot of emotions about the election, and some people have been putting those at me. And so it's been kind of a difficult week for me to deal with social media in my inbox. And, some people are super nice. And part of that is stressing me out too, because people are like, your show is so important. It's never been more important. I'm like, oh my God, this is too much pressure. But then there's also people that are blaming me for Trump's victory because I wasn't, all in for Hillary. So there's been a lot of emotions coming at me. And so I'm not always this downtrodden about the experience. It's just been a really rough week, but most of the time it's nice people and it's great. But this week has been challenging on a lot of levels.
Because your podcast, it is so focused on Congress, right? And I feel like the message, the real takeaway, I think, for folks with your show is that knowing who your congressperson is, it's a really important way that many of us can have an impact on government, because we don't have a direct line to the president. But, a lot of us live relatively close to our congressional offices, where you can go in and you can actually talk to somebody face to face about how you want certain votes to go. And maybe a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. And what's beautiful is that in the district offices, the congressmen, every time we say that they're on vacation, usually they are at home and they're doing like town halls and stuff like that. So your congressman is actually a very accessible person to you. You can actually walk into the district office and meet your actual congressman. And the other thing that works really well is phone calls to congressmen. And so we can direct our congressmen in very real ways, and we're just not doing it. And we also have opportunities, which I think is going to be really relevant in 2018 if the Trump administration is what we're all expecting it to be. But we have the opportunity to replace the entire House of Representatives every 2 years. And it's something that we're just not doing. For me right now, I'm finding that really frustrating, because I have studied now 2 Congresses and they've been horrendous. And so to see them just get rehired in the overwhelming numbers that they do, it really does bother me. But I feel like the coming Trump administration could be the thing that wakes people up to go, okay, the only thing that we have against an executive branch the only other check that we have is our Congress. So I'm hoping that this could be a great awakening, just like you said, where we can realize our own power, because our own power, it's in the legislative branch. Like that's where we can make a real difference. And, I had a bunch of friends over for election night, and every single one of them admitted to me they didn't know who their congressperson was until the morning that they went to vote. So we're not holding these people accountable. We're not paying attention. And I'm just doing a podcast my own small way of hoping to turn that around.
Well, Jen, really want to thank you for coming on the show. We also appreciate that you operate on the value for value model, keeping the ads out of your show, because, there is that influence, especially when you're talking about things political in nature like you do. And so we're happy to be among those that are helping support your show.
Yes. Thank you for doing that, too. I do want to say, you guys are supporting the podcast, and that's huge to me. So thank you so much for doing that. You guys are the only reasons I can keep going. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And be sure to pass along Go Hawks to your husband, Joe.
Oh, I will. He's excited that I went on this podcast today. So he really loved it that my team lost. He figured it would take down my obnoxious level. And I don't know if it actually did, but I probably would have been a little bit meaner had we won. So
yeah, but as it is, you lost. I mean, I just wanted to make sure you remembered. So.
We did. It was so painful. But that Brady to Gronk, it was a thing of beauty, the one that actually worked. So I'm holding on to that.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
On this week's 3 and 3 Out, we go channeling our inner Rocky Balboa as we explore the East versus West matchup that was. So who was the tone setter, and what kind of points regrets could us 12s possibly have? We'll cover all prime areas that might end in a 9 and celebrate a nasty gash we created in the presumed heavyweight champion Patriots. So what's it all mean? You're going to have to read this week's edition of 3 and 3 Out, which is exclusively written for the Seahawkers podcast.
And we're back. Thanks again to Jen Briney from Congressional Dish for coming on the show. Hopefully it was just enough politics, not too much, just a little bit. And we kind of just had an election, and I thought the important message coming from that, and Jen Briney covering Congress primarily in her podcast. It's good to know what Congress is doing, and it's a good show to listen to figure out what bills are being passed and what the person that you have the opportunity to be most connected with in government is doing for you in particular.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Since I guess we had a little politics there, I'm going to have to change my do better, because I was going to have a little politics in my do better, but I don't. That's probably enough. Okay. I think that's enough for this show.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, what do you say we get into welcoming some new members of the flock, Adam?
Yeah, welcome for members.
Members. And we got...
That's going to catch on, I'm telling you. It's really catchy.
We got 3...
dozens of 12s are a big fan of that deal, right?
Dozens of 12s.
Yeah. Call me Butter, because I'm on a roll right now.
I don't know about that. Welcome to the flock to John Wondrak. He is in for the live shows at the 12-12 level. We're going to have to... We're getting close to doing that, Adam. And I'm glad that our other folks are hanging in there, because this is going to be something we're going to be doing at least once a month.
Well, I know you've been working hard on it because the technical end of it has turned out to be a little more daunting than we had originally planned.
It's going to be tough, but I think I have a way. All right. Welcome to the flock to John, and also welcome to the flock to Annalisa Mickelson. She's going to be part of our Ring of Honor. And awesome. There's an email here. It says, "Hey guys, as a longtime listener and first-time supporter of the podcast, I wanted to jump on the bandwagon of taking credit for Hawks wins. While sadly, doesn't not involve breakfast of any kind, I do have a story to share with you.
Okay.
First of all, while I live in New York now, I am from Seattle, and my mom used to work as a dietitian for the team in the first couple of seasons. So the Seahawks love is real and deep in my family. Nearly as strong as my absolute hatred for Tom Brady and the Patriots. Side note, will it only be us winning another Super Bowl that will finally stop them from mentioning that dark moment in what seems like literally every game, whether we are playing the Patriots or not? And I'll just take a break in the email here and say, You, as a Seahawks fan, must get used to seeing that play. If you have to go Clockwork Orange and just pry open your eyeballs and watch that play over and over just to desensitize yourself from that play, you are going to see that for the rest of NFL history, that because of the gravity of that particular play.
Jared's grandpa-in-law at the wedding, like, the older, he even brought that up at the wedding. I can't escape that play anywhere. Like, no. I mean, it's tough. So you just gotta be able to either joke about it or just let a little part of your soul die so you don't have any feeling there anymore.
But winning another Super Bowl over the Patriots would help, at least, much like winning our first Super Bowl kind of deadened the loss against the Steelers just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think winning another Super Bowl over the Patriots would help that for sure.
I wouldn't be sad about it. How about that?
Right. Well, back to Annalise's email. On Sunday, I saw there was something in my mailbox and discovered that somehow a piece of mail that was not only not addressed to me, but wasn't even the same address as my apartment building had landed in my possession. It was a card advertising a discount for the Patriots Pro Shop.
Oh, gross.
As you can imagine, simply throwing this away wouldn't suffice. So I tore it up into small pieces and burned the pile.
I was going to say light it on fire. Yeah, all right. Yes, I'm a big fan. This is great.
She says, I work in theater. I like dramatics. This was right before I watched in utter delight as our Hawks beat the insufferable Patriots in their own house. I'm not saying this usurps breakfast as the reason for our win. I'm just saying it probably didn't hurt. Really love listening to you guys. Go Hawks.
Look, Annalise, like basically, if anybody has something they're going to take credit for the win for that involves a fire sacrifice like that, I'm on board with. You bet. Yeah, I understand it's not breakfast, but it's got fire.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty cool too. And
Yes.
plus it's burning something Patriots.
I know.
Which, yeah, that might, as long as it's not the flag, I think you're all right.
I think you're all right.
Yeah.
Annalisa, welcome to the flock. And also welcome to the flock to Chris Woolston. He's going to be getting a sticker and the bonus shows, and everybody's getting the bonus shows. And Adam, the stickers to our members of the flock, they have all gone out.
The stickers are free? They're gone?
They're
You
gone.
set them free?
I have set the stickers free.
That's awesome. Well, enjoy, everybody that is a member of the flock. The stickers are nice. They're fun. I just put one on my car like last week.
Now, if you joined in November as part of Mo members, I'm going to do my best to get them out at the end of the month and maybe do this monthly rather than annually.
Perfect. That sounds great. But big thanks to everybody who's been getting in the flock, man. It's awesome.
I was going to do anniversary announcements because we did just have 3 members of the flock, but apparently this was a slow time last year. So a general shout out to all of our members of the flock that are helping to support the show. If you want to be part of that, you can go to getintheflock.com.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys a ton. And you have absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Well, let's move on to the Pick'em League, the Seahawkers podcast Pick'em League. Got Bald Men for Baldwin in the lead. And I'm wondering if this was a name change because I haven't seen that title up there. But Bald Men for Baldwin leading the entire league, right ahead of Easley Street and Biggity Cool and Super Tecmo Rawls.
Oh, awesome. Good work, guys. I did not make it up on the leaders this week. It may have been a bad week for me.
I was number 3. I was in 3rd place.
Wow.
And our winner for week 10, again, Bald Men for Baldwin, only missed the Rams-Jets game. And really, that's on me because this was the first time that I picked the Rams to win, and they actually won.
Yeah. So it was close, though. You tried.
I did try.
Your reverse jinx did pretty well for quite a while.
Yeah. If Fitzpatrick would have played for the Jets, I think that would have made the difference.
Yeah, definitely.
He could have beat the Rams.
Oh, without question. Without question.
And in our patron-only league, Bald Men for Baldwin just edged out Toonhawk. So good week by John, but not quite good enough. So congratulations to those of you in the Pick'em League. We got the Got the Largent jersey up as the top prize. We have the KJ Wright autograph football for those in the Seahawkers Podcast Patron League. And you can go to SeahawkersPodcast.com. And it's still not too late to get in, especially, with the Patron League. We're doing prizes week to week. I'll be sending those prizes out shortly for those people who have been in for the first half of the season. Who knows? Maybe one of you lucky winners will end up with an autographed Kristen Michael rookie card as part of your prize package.
Would it help if we both autographed it too? Like at that point, as a part of the show memorabilia? I don't know. I don't know if that because I would think that would devalue most things, but I don't know that you would devalue that.
That's a piece of show memorabilia at this point. It's not. It's not a Seahawks memorabilia. It is show memorabilia.
I don't know. Something to consider.
Well, moving on before we get to your email and do better and better at life, we got a couple of reviews, Adam. I think the 3-star review sparked a few people into leaving more reviews.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's cool.
I know. We got one from Germany. Says greets from Germany. From Relative Cool is the username. The best podcast for 12s. Adam and Brandon are entertaining as catfish and really funny. Great recaps and preview about the games. Keep going, guys. And there's one thing left to say. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. Well, thanks all the way from Germany, man. That's super cool.
Actually, we only had one U.S. review this week. Of the 4, 3 of the 4 were from overseas.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for the international flavor this week. I like it.
This one that did come into the U.S. iTunes, best podcast in the universe.
Whoa. Oh, easy. Let's not raise the bar too high.
I'm pretty sure that's No Agenda's motto, but we did steal the value for value model from them. So
we did not steal that from them. I heard that on SciShow. Like before, it wasn't even called Patreon then. It was a different service that did the exact same thing. And then everybody switched over to Patreon, and they talked about it there. I did not steal that from No Agenda. How dare you?
Well, we can't take the best podcast in the universe credit from them. That would be going over the top.
Maybe, but I like where the writer's head's at on this, though.
Yes,
I like that's something to aspire to.
Makes you feel good. Here's one from the UK. No 103 says, "Holy catfish!" And Adam, there are a cat and a fish emojis in the title. Oh. Apparently, you can do.
That's gonna be there forever. It's gonna be there forever. You can't get rid of those. Oh man, this is really you UK guys are funny.
You can apparently title your reviews with emojis. This is incredible.
No, this is not incredible. This is the downfall of man.
It says top show with tip top hosts.
Slope, man.
As a newbie to the NFL, I can truly say, with Adam's wise words and Brandon's calming voice, I know much more about the Hawks, football, and the infamous bubble screen. Keep it up, chaps. Your podcast is the dog's bollocks. Means it's a fantastic show. But Can I ask, who is Skip Bayless? And this is a question that we do get sometimes, especially from new listeners and especially from listeners overseas.
Yes. So to give you a little backstory, Skip Bayless is a commentator. He was on ESPN for quite some time, a show called First Take. It was a morning show. And basically it was this Skip Bayless guy, and he's a blowhard. Like he really is like, he'll pick, it doesn't really matter what the position is. He'll just pick one that's opposite of the other host and argue it till he's blue in the face, even if he doesn't believe in it one way or another. But he kind of took Richard Sherman to task a little bit, and Richard Sherman came on the show. And basically, Richard Sherman went on a diatribe. And if you want to know the full backstory of that, just YouTube it. You'll find it. Richard Sherman versus Skip Bayless. You'll find it. But basically, Sherman says, he's the best at his position. He's the best at this, best at that. And Skip Bayless isn't even the best writer in Denver. I think that's where he was living at the time, or Dallas or wherever. And he goes, not only that, but I'm better at life than you. And that's where the phrase came from. It was Brandon's brainchild to use it as a segment. So Skip Bayless he's kind of a troll of the sports world that nobody really likes.
Right.
And now he has a new show on Fox opposite of Shannon Sharp, and I just threw up my mouth a little bit thinking about it.
How do you pick which one to dislike of those two combinations?
This is you put how many Sophie's Choices are you going to give me this podcast? First it was just only Raiders, Cowboys, then it was Greg Hardy, Alden Smith, and then it was Clinton Trump. Like I can't.
Pick who you like more, Adam, Skip Bayless or Shannon Sharp. You must choose.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
I can't do it either. I abstain. Well, you can call it Kaepernick this one. I'll allow you that, Adam.
Hey, I voted. I just wrote in the word protest. Okay.
Okay.
But I actually went.
You didn't take a knee at the voting booth.
I actually wrote protest while on a knee. Like that's what I did.
Well, I think people would be.
Write protest.
I think people would be less upset at Kaepernick had he done that.
Well, I think he couldn't go to the polling station because his hair wouldn't fit in the booth. Couldn't get the curtain around,
We don't even have curtains at ours. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to reviews. Here's one from MB York. I've been listening to this podcast the last 3 years, and while I've never written a review, after hearing on the show that someone complained about Adam's quote-unquote football knowledge, I was so outraged, I thought I had to write one. It was time.
Thanks, man.
This is a podcast every Seahawks fan should have. It's really helped with my knowledge and enjoyment of the game. Being from the UK, it's a hard sport to get into, and this is a good place to start. If you're a Hawks fan and don't have this podcast, do better.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I wasn't too worried about it, but it's nice to know. It's nice to know the peeps have our back, Brandon. That feels nice.
I know. It does feel nice. Well, let's get into, we just have a couple email to get to before we get into Do Better and Better at Life. Here's one from Levi in Adelaide. It says, hey guys, it's great listening to your podcast every week. Living in Australia, I never get to see many games or even hear of any news. So your podcast is everything I need in one spot. So thanks for that. I've been constantly checking my phone surrounding the game versus the Patriots, telling everyone I can about the score updates, even if they don't care about it. I was so excited when we got the win, when so many people doubted us. That's why I love the Hawks. Also, after listening to your podcast, episode 131, I jumped straight to my Xbox One and continued playing my Madden franchise mode season. After beating the Panthers, I was into the Super Bowl against, you guessed it, the New England Patriots.
Ooh.
It felt great to beat them in the game and live what should have been our Super Bowl victory, but nonetheless, I feel it's a good luck charm, and today it really paid off. Thanks heaps for all you do, and keep up the good work. As always, go Hawks. Thanks, Levi.
Go Hawks. Yeah, appreciate that, Levi. And you know what? The idea that you're telling everybody about game updates, that you are 12ing properly.
Exactly.
You're doing it right.
Even in Australia, where people, they may not even know what American football is.
No, but you're trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to show them the beauty of what they're missing.
Exactly.
I really like it.
Here's one from Tim Moon on Facebook. I think I know what Pete was thinking when he said we are going to start seeing changes next week prior to the Buffalo game. Okay. I think he was pointing to an important change in the offensive priorities for the Seahawks offense. I think they have come to a very important revelation. The new Marshawn Lynch is Jimmy Graham. Just as Marshawn provided the pivot that allowed the offense to control the game and dominate the opposition, so now Jimmy Graham needs to play that role. As a tight end, he provides very similar ball control opportunities as Marshawn. He is an unstoppable player. He can physically dominate defensive backs and outrun linebackers. He can provide short yardage plays and extend the defense down the field. He is the threat that every defense has to attend to, and if they stop him, it frees up the rest of the offense. Graham is the Seahawks Gronk. We no longer have to be a running team predominantly. We just have to be able to run when that is the poison the opposing defenses choose. The rest of the offense will provide similar benefits, but Graham has to be the foundation and stability of our offense, just like he was in New Orleans. By the way, and this came in before the Patriots game, Adam says, Tim says, by the way, we are going to beat the Patriots in spite of Genghis Tom. Genghis Tom is a walking quarterback, completely one-dimensional. At least Genghis Khan had a horse.
True fact.
And when the Patriots defense works to take away Graham, running Wilson will have something to say about it. Keep up the great work. From Tim.
That's an interesting theory by Tim. I hadn't thought about the idea of Jimmy kind of being the Marshawn replacement. There's something to that. I'm going to need to give that more thought. But I think that's a pretty interesting idea because Graham is kind of a ball control kind of piece in your offense.
Well, and one thing you're starting to see more from Graham this year is the emotion, right? When he gets the ball. and he either hurdles over a guy or runs into a guy, makes a big play. He's getting up and showing emotion, and kind of I think that's, one way to fuel a team, much like we saw CJ Prosise kind of, make a physical play on offense. And it's those just types of moments that I think help energize teams a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. There's something to that. I like Tim's theory. I'm going to think on that more because I don't know if it completely washes out. Like, I don't know if Graham could ever completely fill that role, being that he's just playing such a different position and what that means. But I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Kind of like it.
All right, Adam, what do you say we get into some do better and better at life?
Sounds good, man. Why don't you do better or so?
Okay, my do better this week. I know we've talked Pro Football Focus before, and even in the do better. And it was so frustrating to me to look at the grades this week, not just because I looked at the quarterbacks, and I expected last week we saw Russell Wilson in that top spot of all quarterbacks. And this week, after playing a game where he threw 3 touchdown passes, had over 350 yards, maybe one of his best games as a Seahawk overall, I look at the Pro Football Focus grades. Another MVP type performance. He has a 76.6. I don't know exactly what that means, but I look at Tom Brady's and his grade for the game. 78.1.
What? Wait, no.
1.5 points ahead of Wilson.
And Russell outplayed him up and down the field.
That's what I mean.
Can I ask you one question about that, Brandon? How many touchdowns did Tom Brady throw?
0.
How many did Russell Wilson throw?
3.
3's more than 0?
It's 3 more than 0 even. That's easy math.
That's 3 times more than 0. And wait, what's the quarterback, the name of the game? It's to score touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. Huh.
Yeah. Also, Russell Wilson, 348 yards, so almost 350. Brady, 315. Russell Wilson, 0 interceptions. Tom Brady had 1. Quarterback rating, 124 for Russell Wilson. Brady had a 90 quarterback rating. There were two parts of this game where Brady did beat Russell Wilson in the statistics department.
What, rushing yards?
Brady, I don't think it was rushing yards. Brady had 9.8 yards per attempt. Russell had 9.4.
Oh, Russell was dogging it.
I know. A whole 0.4 behind him. And
throwing all those feathery touch passes all over the field.
And Brady had a 72% completion percentage, and Russell had 68. So Brady got him by 4 percentage points.
Great. Fantastic.
I understand, Adam, that their grades take into account more than just statistics. But nobody who watched that game will objectively say that Tom Brady outplayed Russell Wilson in that game.
Can I tell you 2 dudes who do to add into your do better? Donovan McNabb and Stephen A. Smith.
What?
They both, I saw it on First Take today. Replacements for Skip Bayless, by the way, for those who are wondering. Like literally. They thought that Tom Brady was the better quarterback.
What?
Yep. On that day.
On that day.
Max Kellerman was the only one that was like, no, Russell Wilson was clearly the better quarterback on that day.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
Pro Football Focus, though, they've gotten to the point.
They're feeding these people this nonsense, dude. Pro Football Focus is.
And the thing is, they've now got themselves featured on Sunday Night Football because of Collinsworth and the role that he plays with that company. They've gotten it featured. They show how each player ranks out within Pro Football Focus's grading system. You look under their name and it has PFF rank for whatever they are at their position. Mm-hmm. And my problem is, if you're going to be taken seriously as an objective grading system, and this is what you put out, you have to do better.
Oh man, you couldn't be more right, dude. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. That's like, it's kind of the idea that I've had a hard time getting behind QBR.
Yeah.
Because I'll see a lot of those types of things too, where like I'll watch a game and passer rating kind of lines up with the eyeball test in the sense of who was more effective that day, more times than not. And there'll be a lot of times I'll go and look at QBR and be like, that doesn't seem to jive with what I saw.
Right. Yeah. The quarterback had a really strong impact on the game and he'll get some kind of low grade.
Yeah. I don't quite understand it. So I know, and don't get me wrong, quarterback rating is not the end all be all.
It's not perfect.
but it seems to line up with what you see more often than it doesn't by a fair amount.
Right.
Yeah. By like 4-1.
Yeah.
You know?
Russell Wilson, 124, Brady, 90.
Yeah.
And maybe
90 is a good rating.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a little low for how Brady played because he didn't get the touchdown passes. And that does bring up your quarterback rating quite a bit.
But he threw a pick.
He did throw a pick. But if
it was an awful pick.
If he throws touchdowns to the end zone rather than having Blunt run it in, he has a higher quarterback rating as a result.
Sure.
But
I'm not even saying Brady played bad. Just Russell Wilson was a master.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed you. What didn't Russell Wilson show you in that game? He showed you the deep ball. He showed you some slants and stuff on a rope. He showed you some feathery, beautiful, buttery touch passes over top of defenders. You know, I mean, it was as complete a game as a guy can have.
I figured it out, Adam. I figured it out. I guess I have to retract my do better because Tom Brady did, in fact, beat Russell Wilson in rushing yards. He had 7 yards rushing. Russell Wilson only had 6. That's what did it.
Crown him. Crown him. Tom Brady's the greatest. Just as it are. All right. Well, my do better this week is for a woman named Elizabeth Ruiz. And I know everybody out there just went, what? Who's Elizabeth Ruiz? Nobody's ever heard of this woman. This is because she's not particularly famous, although she's trying to be. She's trying to be famous, and she's trying to do it off the coattails of an NFL player. And not only that, but blackmail him along the way.
What?
One Von Miller goes to Cancun and meets a gal down in Cancun back on June 2016. Miller says the woman so basically he ended up hooking up with this gal a couple times in his hotel room, in the privacy of his hotel room. This is what the news story says. Quote, Miller says the woman recorded the sex on her cell phone, but he insisted at all times she keep it private. He claims he reached out to her after the trip and asked her to destroy the recording, to which she replied, quote, gotcha. Not gotcha as in I'm going to record it or destroy it, as in I gotcha. You be rich, and I'm about to get famous and get rich too. She first tried to sell the video to TMZ, and TMZ, I didn't even know they had scruples anywhere. But somehow
there's videos that they don't buy.
And apparently this is one of them. So then she got a team of people together and sent a letter to Vaughn demanding $2.5 million.
Holy smoke.
Or she was going to go public with this tape. So now Von Miller has taken her to court and is asking the judge to block the woman from doing this. I don't know what will come of that, but that is despicable behavior. That is despicable behavior. It is so gross and so dirty to do that to somebody. If you're going to have a good time with somebody and all that, the whole thing, kiss and don't tell. I mean, there's that comes from somewhere. It's a bit of human decency. And then not only that, but try to take $2.5 million off the man because he made the mistake of thinking you were cool for one weekend, but instead you're a gold digger. Elizabeth Ruiz, you are the scum of the earth. Do better.
Yeah, sometimes you see this when the tables are turned when it's...
oh, yeah. If it's a dude who does the same thing,
right.
You are the scum of the earth.
Right. And
don't do that to people,
it makes me wonder, how are there not laws against that sort of thing? Like, if a person's going to do that, those are people that need to be put away for a little bit because it's not okay.
It's not okay. I mean, the thing is, too, is what makes it sticky is it's a consensual video, is in the sense that Vaughn knew he was being recorded.
Yeah, but it's not for public. It's consensual and for private use.
Right, but then you don't put that down contractually. Now what? You know what I'm saying? Like it gets sticky. So what you don't do,
to be contractual.
What you don't do ever, unless you're getting paid a large sum of money, is film yourself having sex. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It'll end badly more times than not. Even if you're not rich.
Right.
Just saying, don't do it.
Don't do it. Well, that's a good lesson. Well, let's move on to Better at Life. Let's pick listeners up after a story like that. Who you got?
This week, my Better at Life is for a man named Manish. And we've crushed him on this show before, but Manish Mehta comes out with an article after the Patriots game, and basically it's titled, "I will never doubt Russell Wilson again." And not only that, but the next like 5 lines of the article, I'm trying to pull it up so I remember exactly the line here, but I'm pretty sure it said, "I will never doubt Russell Wilson again. I will never doubt Russell Wilson again. I will never doubt Russell Wilson again." And he has it about 5 times. The first one highlighted in a hyperlink, so you can click and go back to his article in which we panned him not too long ago, saying that, what was it? A Russell Wilson is about as useful as a right-handed Jim Zorn. Was that the quote?
I think that was about right.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing something along those lines. But he came out and he's seen the light. He took a chug off the Kool-Aid that I so graciously offered Pete Prisco earlier in the show. Manish Mehta has turned it around. He's understood. He's seen the light. Welcome to the flock, Manish. It's good to have you here. It's good to see you seeing the truth. I'm glad that you're living the truth with us and you're writing the truth with us. You, my friend, are now better at life than Skip Bayless. Enjoy your newly cleansed hot cross.
Now we can get Manish to help us get Pete Prisco, because he's really, I mean, who else is left?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, see, I don't know. I think I should try to figure this out because it's important now that he's come around. Is if his name is Manish or Manish. I'm guessing it might be Manish.
So now that he's actually come on board, we should probably learn how to pronounce his name properly.
Right. I care now.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to make sure I pronounce his name right. So if somebody knows, let us know, because I'd like to, you know, I'd like to introduce him to the flock properly, you know?
I like that. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I
care now.
Well, it leads in perfectly to my better at life this week. And it's Russell Carrington Wilson, Adam.
Who? Say it again.
Russell Carrington Wilson.
Is that your quarterback?
That's my quarterback, man.
That's a quarterback.
He's making a lot of people in Seattle happy this week, not just by beating the Patriots, Adam, but now Russell Wilson has partnered with the Sonics Arena Group to help bring the NBA and perhaps the NHL to Seattle. And this was a big announcement this week. You see Russell with his article in the Players Tribune wearing a Sonics jacket. And the reason why, it's not just the fact that he would be a part of this group that would put him in my better at life for me. Because I mean, I'm not the hugest basketball fan, but there's one part of my childhood where basketball was a big part of my life. And no, Adam, it wasn't on the 8th grade basketball team where we sat on the bench together.
Yeah. Were you played more minutes than I did? That wasn't it.
It was because I could play defense. They'd put me in at the end of the game when we had a lead.
You could have been a 3-and-D guy. I'm telling you, like you could have been.
But the big part of basketball in my childhood was NBA Jam, Adam. And
he's on fire.
He's heating up.
Oh, I love that game. Oh.
And not only did we love that game, but Russell Wilson is a huge NBA Jam fan, as it turns out. And not only was he an NBA Jam fan, but he played with the best team, the Seattle Supersonics, because Sean Kemp and Detlef Schrempf, those guys were money on NBA Jam.
They really were. That was fun. The Rain Man would just bring it down. That was,
You might remember Michael Jordan not on the NBA Jam game, so you got Scottie Pippen and you got Horace Grant.
Right.
And so
the same.
No, it's not the same. But Sean Kemp, yes, the Rain Man, and Detlef Schrempf, you had your 3-point threat. That was the team to be, and Russell Wilson knew this.
Yeah. No, that's smart thinking right there. I forgot that it wasn't GP and Sean Kemp. I would have, if you would have pushed me on that, that's what I would have said.
Yeah.
You're right. It was Detlef Schrempf.
Yep. And Russell writes, I terrorized my brother with Sean Kemp on the boards. He'd get like 5 offensive boards in a row, throwing those big elbows when the announcer said, he's heating up. My brother would start getting stressed. That's when he knew he was in trouble. Then once Kemp was on fire, I'd steal the ball and launch way up in the air, all the way up to the rafters. You know what happened next. Whoa, boom, shakalaka.
Yeah.
Yep. So Russell Wilson, not only for becoming part of the group to bring the Sonics back to Seattle, for reminding me of an outstanding piece of my childhood with NBA Jam. You, sir, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's an excellent one, Brandon. I'm in full support of it. But I think one of the things I wanted to talk about regarding this is, does this surprise you even a little bit?
That he's part of that group?
Right.
No, not at all.
Me neither, because you heard him talk early on in his career about how he wanted to be an owner of a team someday, that he has huge aspirations. And I think what's kind of cool is I think him and Ciara have looked at Seattle and said, we're building the rest of our lives here.
Yeah.
I think they're embracing that community and saying, this is where we can be at the biggest impact of anywhere, and where we're the most beloved, and where we can really make a difference. And it's just awesome, dude. It's a lot like John Elway with the Denver Broncos, right? I mean, he is John Bronco. I mean, that's who he is, the Broncos.
Yeah.
In every way. And I think you see Russell Wilson with this move, like starting to become a part of the fabric of Seattle's community, for the rest of his life. And that's awesome to see, because I want that.
Yeah, no, it's really good to see. That would be super cool to see the hockey back at Seattle. And Russell points out the fact that the Seattle Metropolitans won a championship back in 1917. So have a chance to have two Seattle franchises back in championship franchises back in town.
Wasn't that like the year after Lewis and Clark discovered the Northwest Passage over to Seattle?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah. I think maybe they won the year before, and then when they didn't win the second season, that's when they arrived at Cape Disappointment. And
right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, Russell knocked off Pete Carroll. He was going to be my better at life this week, because talk about a season to exercise some demons for Coach Carroll. A guy who was fired as the head coach by the Patriots and fired as head coach by the Jets, went to college, focused on the coach he wanted to be, and then this year he has the opportunity to face his former teams, and not only face them, but go on the road and take them on in their places. And able to get the wins against the Jets and the Patriots this season. Very cool.
This is all part of the mojo, Brandon. I'm telling you, the mojo feels good right now, because you know where we're going? We're going to the Super Bowl. And Pete Carroll's going to win the Super Bowl this year to top off this incredible year where he got to take down the Patriots, got to take down the Jets, and now he's going to stick them all with a big catfish on when he puts a ring on his middle finger and shows it to everybody. It's going to be great.
Well, Adam, we will be back later this week to talk about the upcoming matchup against the Eagles. And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. As we mentioned, if you want to help support the show, you can go to getintheflock.com, but there's other ways to support the show too. You can go to seahawkerspodcast.com/support. If you're going to a away game and want tickets, you can go there. There's plenty of other things. Or if you're looking for that next Seahawks jersey, go to Fanatics and you can click on our link at seahawkerspodcast.com/support. Get your gear through there, and a little percentage kicks back to the show.
You bet, man. That's, again, you're doing it anyways. So hook a brother up. I don't know. That's too much to ask.
seahawkerspodcast.com/support. Thanks again for supporting the show.